So you're trying to figure out how to get rid of your pests on your farm, right? How do we do that? Well, let's learn a little bit about pests. What is a pest? It's anything that can interfere with our food or our houses or anything. Or maybe we just don't like the bugs. They don't actually do anything bad, but we don't like them. So we like to kill them and get rid of them. Natural ecosystems like a polyculture, there is a ton, there we go, a ton of different kinds of bugs and bacteria and fungus in here. And actually, they help keep other bugs and bacteria and fungus in check. Meaning, if you have a monoculture and you spray chemicals to kill things on, as we'll learn about, if a parasite or a pest comes, it kind of has free range. There's nothing to kill it. If a bug that likes to eat corn ends up here, it's going to eat all that corn. But here in this more natural polyculture ecosystem, there's a ton of different kinds of bugs and animals that help keep any particular pest that might eat your crops in check and slow them down, prevent their population from overpopulating. So, a pest is anything that we don't like. It can interfere with our food or our homes or anything like that. A pesticide is something that kills those pests. There's insecticide to kill insects, fungicide to kill fungus, herbicide to kill any kind of plants like weeds. We call them weeds if we don't like them. And rodenticides kill rodents like rats and stuff. Now, there are some benefits, obviously, if you're somewhere where there's a bug that can carry a bad disease, like a tick or a mosquito or something. Using bug spray is good because you won't get that disease. However, sorry, we'll talk about the drawbacks in a second. Also, it can increase the food supply. You don't have to worry about your crops being eaten by pests if you spray it with chemicals that kill the pest. They work fast. They're usually pretty safe if you use the proper uh, safety measures. And newer pesticides are generally a little bit safer and more effective than old ones. However, it is poison and it can make you sick. Glyphosate, which is Roundup, very common. You can buy that at Home Depot. If you don't use the proper safety precautions, it has been linked to lymphoma, which is not good. Also, the one really bad thing is that a lot of these chemicals, as we talked about with DDT, something called biomagnification happens. Right? These chemicals, when you spray them on the ground, they end up in the water supply. They end up everywhere. If you spray it on your farm and you water your plants, the runoff with the water ends up in streams. Now, that's not too bad because if a little plankton eats a little bit of pesticide, it doesn't really kill it. But the bugs that eat those little plankton, as they eat three of them, they're getting three times as much as each bug got. Then if a fish, let's say this fish eats three of these grasshoppers, then that fish is getting three times for each grasshopper, so it ends up getting three, six, nine times as much as the first thing that ate it. And then a bigger fish, here's a salmon, eats those fish, it's getting even more. And if you eat that fish, eventually over time, you are just getting full of chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, and that is not good. We talked about DDT before. This actually happened with eagles. The reason that bald eagles were endangered, the numbers are back a lot now, is because there was a chemical they used to spray to try to kill bugs and it got in the water. And it didn't actually kill the eagles, but eagles eat fish. And just how this whole situation happened, the fish were full of DDT. Eagles got full of DDT, and when they laid their egg shells were soft, and the babies really didn't survive all the time. So bald eagles pretty much had low numbers. Now, another really bad thing is that you have to realize that when you use chemicals in this situation here, we were using herbicide to kill weeds for 10 years and it was working great. But then what happened was one of the plants, just by random chance, had a gene in it that made it resistant to the glyphosate. So it didn't kill it. And what happens is you spray all the plants or the weeds with that glyphosate, all the weeds will die except for the ones that are resistant. And then when those ones that are resistant don't die, they seed and they make more. So as we spray more chemicals on the ground, we are actually getting higher and higher numbers of weeds that are resistant to those chemicals. It's a coevolution. We spray, it works for a little while, then a plant is resistant to it. We can't kill that plant. We have to put more chemicals on it. And then the same thing happens again. At first it kills it, but then the plant is resistant to even the more chemicals. Eventually, if we use herbicides, pesticides, and rodenticides, what we're really doing is making super, super strong what we consider pests. That's why we have to keep taking stronger and stronger antibiotics because if you get sick and you have a strain of a virus, or I should say a bacteria, that is resistant to the antibiotics, you have to take a lot more and more and more and more. All right. So what can we do to prevent using synthetic pesticides? Well, there's a couple things. You can fool the pest, do crop rotation, spray oils or natural soaps that don't actually hurt anybody. They're not poisonous, but they can prevent bugs from coming there. You can make homes for their enemies. If a certain type of spider eats an aphid, then you can make little places that spiders like to live, right? If you know you have rats in your forest eating all of your carrots or whatever, then you can put nests that hawks can use to live in your farm. Those hawks will eat the rats or the rabbits. There's perfumes you can use that are pheromones. You can actually spray plants so it attracts bugs, or you can spray plants so that it actually makes bugs go away. The pheromones are usually the smell of like their predator, right? Hormones, similar thing. And you can also use, whoops, I don't know why this is going so crazy. Other alternatives, you can hand weed. You don't have to spray anything. You can do it by hand. It takes more work, but it works. You can use cover crops or cultivation. So when you're looking at your pests here, whichever project you have, you can do some simple searches to find out what their natural predators are, or what kind of pheromones or natural environmentally friendly sprays you can use to get rid of them. Ladybugs is a big one. Ladybugs loves to eat aphids. There's actually also a special little tiny type of wasp that will put its eggs inside the aphid so that when the wasp egg hatches, it eats the aphid from inside out. So get creative. Use this slide here, alternative pesticides that you can use, and figure out what kind of pesticide you can use that's natural, non chemical, to get rid of your specific pests.